Welcome to Shimba channel. As a Japanese native, I'm here to share the reality of Japanese culture and its systems. So, how does Japan's average salary of 4.8 million yen, about $32,000, sound to you? Today, I'll break down the gap between the average and the median, pay disparities based on employment status and industry, and Japan's unique bonus system, all based on my own experience. First, we need to address the major statistical illusion, the difference between the average and the median. While the official average sits at 4.8 million yen, that figure is heavily inflated by a small group of ultra-high earners. If we look at the median, the point where half the population earns more and half earns less, it's actually around 4 million yen, or about $27,000. This is the real Japan for most people. More than half the population is living on significantly less than what the average suggests. By the way, if you're wondering how much that actually hits your bank account after taxes, or what the cost of living alone in Japan looks like, I've already made deep dive videos on those. Definitely check them out later. I'll put the links in the description. In my experience, that 4 million yen median feels spot on. With prices rising rapidly, you can really feel the squeeze. Plus, Japan still leans into seniority-based pay, which keeps wages for younger workers notoriously low. Honestly, I think this lack of financial breathing room is the reason why marriage and birth rates are hitting record lows here. But I want to hear from you. What's the average salary in your country? Let me know in the comments. Now, beyond the raw numbers, there's an even bigger divide based on how you are employed. Japan's labor market is essentially separated into two different worlds: seishain, regular employees, and hiseiki, non-regular employees. The latter covers everyone from dispatch and contract workers to part-timers. Even though there's a push for equal pay for equal work, the reality is still pretty tough. Regular employees get the full package: monthly salary, big bonuses, retirement plans, great benefits, and the big one, extreme job security. It's famously difficult to fire a regular employee in Japan. Non-regular workers, however, often miss out on most of that. It's not uncommon to see a massive gap in annual income between the two. Even when the worker appears to be almost identical on the surface, this invisible wall of employment status creates a deep financial disparity and constant anxiety about the future. I have a friend who's a contract worker. Even though they do the exact same job as their regular co-workers, they have to go through a contract review every few years. They live with this constant background noise of anxiety, wondering if they'll be go. Imagine doing the exact same labor as the person next to you, but knowing your safety net could be pulled away at any moment. You see it in school too. Full-time lecturers do the same work as tenured teachers, but as the years go by, the gap in their lifetime earnings becomes a mountain. But it's not just about your contract. It's also about which box you jump into at the start of your career. In Japan, your industry often matters more than your individual talent. If you land in a high-tier sector like manufacturing, finance, energy, global trading, or IT, you're set. But vital industries like agriculture, hospitality, nursing, and retail tend to have very low salary ceilings no matter how hard you work. For example, at the major Japanese trading houses, it's not unusual for employees to clear 10 million yen, about $67,000, by the time they are just 30 years old. That is over double the national average achieved at a very young age. Foreign capital companies are also massive favorites for graduates because they offer high performance-based pay right from the start. Meanwhile, If you look at sectors like agriculture, retail, or elder care, the average worker often struggles to even hit that 4 million yen median mark, even after a decade of experience. Is there a huge pay gap between industries in your country? Or is it more about your specific role? Drop a comment below. Now, we've covered some of the harsh realities, but Japan does have a few unique rewards that might surprise you. Let's talk about bonuses and retirement payouts. In most Japanese companies, you get a bonus twice a year. This isn't usually a performance incentive. It's more like deferred salary. Companies keep monthly pay low and they pay out a lump sum in summer and winter. For the company, this is a financial buffer. If business is bad, they cut the bonus instead of cutting people. Then there's a retirement payout, or Taishokukin. This is a very traditional Japanese system where the longer you stay with one company, the bigger the check you receive when you eventually leave or retire. Sometimes it can reach tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's essentially a forced saving plan managed by your employer. While this system worked very well during the era of lifetime employment as a safety net for old age, it's becoming more of a challenge as people change jobs more frequently. My previous company was a bit more modern, so we didn't have a retirement payout, but we did have bonuses. The amount was mostly fixed at a few months' pay, with my individual performance only have a very minor impact on the final number. For most of us, a bonus isn't a luxury extra, it's money we've already budgeted for our basic living expenses. These traditions are still deep-rooted. The landscape is finally starting to shift. Right now, a massive labor shortage and inflation are forcing Japan into a wave of wage hikes. Major firms and tech companies are aggressively bumping up starting pay for new grads to stay competitive. We are also seeing a slow but steady move away from the old seniority system toward a more merit-based evaluation system. For instance, we are seeing some companies raise their starting salaries to levels that significantly exceed the national average from the very first year. However, this shift is creating some new friction in society. First, small and medium-sized businesses, which make up the vast majority of companies in Japan, often simply can't afford these big raises. This means their workers are feeling the full impact of inflation without any financial relief. And then there's the salary inversion problem. This happens when a company raises the starting salary for new hires so much that a new graduate's paycheck might actually be higher than a senior employee. Imagine the awkwardness of training a new recruit or knowing they're already out-earning you on day one. It's a very messy transition period for Japanese corporate culture, as companies struggle to balance attracting new talent with keeping the long-term employees happy. So, that's the real story behind Japan's salaries. Behind that 4.8 million yen average is a complex world of median gaps, contract divides, industry ceilings, and unique cultural habits like the bonus system. If you want to understand what it's really like to live and work here, you have to understand these money mechanics. I'll continue to share my real-life experiences with Japanese systems and daily life. So if there's a topic you're curious about, feel free to leave a request. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to share your own experiences, please feel free to leave a comment below. I always enjoy reading your messages and hearing your perspective. Your feedback really helps me improve, not just with my videos, but with my English too. See you next time.